Before you get into the content, leave a like right now because it really helps this video get shared. Check that you're subscribed and switch notifications on so you don't miss any updates, because things are moving far too quickly at Manchester City, and if you blink, you could miss key information that completely changes the picture for the season. The mood behind the scenes at Manchester City is one of pure acceleration. It's no exaggeration to say big decisions are being pushed through with urgency. And it all starts with a name that has gained serious momentum in the last few hours. Antoine Semeno has stopped being a distant watch list option and has become a real, concrete target, treated as a priority. When a club like City shifts gears like that, it's because something significant has happened behind closed doors. The strongest signal has come from the player himself. Sources close to the talks indicate Semeno has made it clear he's open to it, excited by it, and willing to take the next step in his career in the sky blue shirt. That changes everything, because when there's heavy competition in the market, and there is in this case, the player's decision carries as much weight as any financial figure. And here, City felt the path was clear to move more aggressively. Bournemouth know exactly what they've got. Semeno isn't just another squad name. He's become one of the most explosive pieces in their attack. A player capable of deciding matches in rapid transitions, of attacking both short and long spaces, of offering different solutions within the same game. That's why their stance is simple. He only goes if the clause is paid in full, which sits at around £65 million. That clause, by the way, takes on even more symbolic weight at this stage of the season. January is approaching, the Premier League title race heats up, and City look at their squad with clinical coldness. It's not desperation, it's calculation. There are important absences in the attacking unit, and that directly impacts the game plan. When options shrink, the standard demanded rises. Pep wants immediate solutions, but ones that also make sense in the medium and long term. And Semeno fits that profile precisely. He's a player who can stay wide, attack inside, has physical strength, acceleration, and the reading to press high. He isn't rigid, he's adaptable. And in City's model, that's gold dust. Internally, the work started weeks ago. The football department, now under new leadership, intensified contacts, mapped the landscape, assessed risks and rivals. There were checks, indirect conversations, and huge care taken not to inflate the situation before the right moment. Meanwhile, other giants watched from a distance, some more interested, others with less conviction. Manchester United monitored the situation. Chelsea looked too, but cooled quickly. Liverpool kept a close eye, especially after recent issues in their attacking areas. Even so, City never showed public urgency. The confidence came from behind the scenes, from the correct read that the player saw Manchester as the ideal destination to make the definitive leap. Once that preference became clear, the situation jumped up a level. City stopped simply watching and started applying pressure. The key word here is clarity. Clarity on numbers, on timing, on real intent. The aim became to wrap it up quickly, avoid a prolonged auction, and cut out the external noise that usually appears when a deal drags on. There's also a sporting factor that can't be ignored. This season, the attacking dependency on one name has looked more obvious than City would want. That doesn't mean the collective quality isn't there, rather it's a strategic warning. Spreading responsibility, varying the attacking routes, and having genuine alternatives changes how opponents behave. Semeno offers exactly that. He wouldn't arrive to be a bit-part player. He'd arrive to compete, to push those already there, to raise the internal level of training and decision-making. It's that kind of signing that keeps a squad alive, alert, uncomfortable in the right way. Nobody relaxes when they feel someone can take their space through performance. Bournemouth, for their part, are already mentally preparing for the possibility of losing him. There's no emotional resistance, only financial protection. They know losing a player of that caliber hurts technically, but they also know it's part of the cycle. The expectation is to maximize the return and reinvest smartly, keeping the project competitive within the club's reality. On the blue side of Manchester, the feeling is that the window could deliver a massive impact early on. After a summer of important changes, every adjustment now has to be precise. There's no room for empty gambles. Everything is being considered within a bigger context, continuity, and maintaining the hunger for trophies. And when the manager is one of the biggest enthusiasts for the arrival, that speeds things up even more. Pep sees Semeno not just as a reinforcement, but as a piece that expands tactical possibilities, enabling variations without losing identity. That's the difference between signing a name and signing a fit. The impression is that City are ready to act decisively. This isn't media noise, it's real movement. The next few days look set to be intense, with talks advancing, numbers being fine-tuned, and decisions that could reshape the attacking setup for the rest of the season. And while all that is unfolding, other issues are starting to gather pace behind the scenes at the club, creating a constant sense of expectation among supporters, because it isn't only the attack that's at the center of attention right now. Because while the main focus seems to be up front, there are movements and murmurs appearing in other areas of the squad that also deserve attention. And that's where the conversation changes tone, away from attack and into the area where Manchester City are usually even more cautious: defense. In recent days, rumors began circulating that caught many supporters by surprise. There was talk of a direct rival preparing a major move for one of City's center-backs, with figures that sounded almost unreal for a player still in the process of establishing himself at the club. And when that kind of story appears, fans naturally pause, question it, and try to understand what's really behind it. The truth is that inside the Etihad, the view is very different from the narrative outside. The player in question is part of a clear development plan built with calm and patience. There was never an expectation that he would arrive and instantly become an undisputed starter. The process has always been gradual adaptation, intense learning, and internal growth. City's defensive system is one of the most complex in modern football. It demands spatial awareness, passing timing, refined positioning, and the courage to defend high. For a young center-back, you don't absorb that overnight. So managed minutes don't represent distrust. They represent protection and development. Internally, the club see him as a strategic asset, someone who may not be in the spotlight every week, but who grows quietly, taking in concepts and preparing to assume more responsibility when the context calls for it. And that context can appear at any moment, whether through physical wear in the squad or the relentless calendar approaching. When the speculation about huge offers surfaced, the response was direct and left no room for interpretation. There is no intention to negotiate, no loan, no sale, no open talks. The message was clear because the club understand the importance of defensive depth, especially in a season where every competition demands the maximum. Strengthening a direct rival, especially with a player shaped within your own philosophy, simply doesn't fit the logic of the project. City operate with long-term vision. They'd rather absorb the external noise than make rushed decisions that weaken the collective. That firm stance also sends a message to the rest of the squad. Anyone who joins with a promise of growth knows they won't be discarded at the first obstacle. There's an environment of trust and construction, something few clubs can sustain when pressure rises. And speaking of pressure, the atmosphere became even more intense with the conversations around the manager's future. Rumors, speculation, analysis, and alternative names started flying from every direction, creating that familiar cloud of uncertainty that often follows the biggest winning projects. It was in that setting that one of the squad's leaders decided to speak, and his words carried weight. They weren't rehearsed answers or empty lines. They were statements that reveal a lot about what's being built internally and how the players see the club's moment. The goalkeeper, who arrived recently and quickly took on a leading role, made the level of admiration and trust in the daily work crystal clear. He spoke about the close relationship, about the way the manager influences decisions, calms things in critical moments, and gets the best out of everyone even under enormous pressure. Those comments help explain something important. Regardless of the external noise, the dressing room appears aligned. There's respect, there's belief in the project, and there's a sense that big chapters are still to be written. That matters when you're talking about sustained competitiveness. There were doubts at the beginning, especially about adaptation, style of play, and specific demands, but the day-to-day work dissolved those uncertainties. Adjustments were made, responsibilities were shared, and progress became visible match after match. When a player of that level says he feels at home, that he wants to stay for years and build history, it doesn't happen by accident. It reflects a functioning environment, demanding yet stable at the same time. Exactly the kind of context that supports winning cycles. In the end, it all connects. The potential arrival of Semeno shows immediate ambition. The refusal to negotiate defensive pieces shows planning. And the words coming from inside the dressing room reinforce the idea of continuity. These aren't isolated moves. They're parts of the same design. Manchester City look fully aware that every decision now has a direct impact on the present and the future. There's no room for improvisation. Every step is calculated, every silence is strategic, and every action has a clear purpose. And that's what makes this moment so interesting for anyone following closely. Because we're not just talking about loose rumors, but about a club moving with purpose, even under constant pressure, keeping identity and ambition intact. If you enjoyed this, leave a like right now, because it really helps the video reach more supporters. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn notifications on so you don't miss any updates, because what's happening at Manchester City looks set to deliver plenty more major chapters.